Hello, this is the Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. We're in southwest Kansas where a summit on the Ogallala Aquifer went on this past week. We'll talk with some of those in attendance. Also, we'll sit down with Jesse McCurry from Kansas Sorghum and get the latest on what's going on with the trade situation with China and possibly what this year's sorghum crop would look like. We'll also have reports from Kansas Wheat, the Kansas Farm Bureau, Kansas Livestock Association, and Paragon Ag Advisors. Looks like a good show. Stay with us. You're watching the Kansas Ag Report.
Closed captioning brought to you by
The Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers. KansasSoybeans.org.
Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919. KFB.org. Kansas Wheat Commission, leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online at kswheat.com. Kansas Livestock Association, supporting our members' business interests to meet consumers' demands. KLA.org.
And welcome back in Garden City, where the Ogallala Aquifer Summit took place this week. Tracy Streeter, the director of the Kansas Water Office, joins us. Tracy, this was really quite a momentous occasion.
Well, it is. Because, we've talked about needing to get the Ogallala states together for many years and talk about what we have in common. There's certainly federal policy that affects the Ogallala, and it would sure be nice if the 8 states that share the aquifer could be united on things that happen in Washington, D.C. that are either detrimental or advantageous to us having the best conservation agenda for the Ogallala that we can possibly have. And so I think that's important. But the other thing is as we've brought people together from the 8 states, we've brought in some of our success stories within each of our states on those that are saving water and doing a good job of being successful economically, as well as having a good impact on the aquifer, is sharing those success stories between the states and learning from one another. And so that's been really the bonus of this event from my perspective.
It's been a long time since a water meeting has been this calm from all these different states getting together. It truly has been, the last year or 18 months, really a pretty good working relationship.
It has, and particularly with Colorado and Nebraska as it pertains to Kansas because of the Republican River Compact and the efforts that we've had amongst the 3 states that share the Republican and working together rather than kind of choosing the litigation path. We're looking forward and how can we all coexist and have the water we need for our water users.
The outcomes of this summit, what are they, and then where do you go from here?
Well, I think mainly it's been informational sharing and building relationships on this one. But from what I've heard and seen so far, the 200 plus that are here have found value in this event and already talk about doing next year's. So it looks like we started something that's going to have some life beyond today in Garden City. And with Colorado State, K-State, and the other universities sharing the Ogallala working together, which they are, and really kind of caused this to happen, I think our opportunities to continue this dialogue are really good.
One of the things is you were able to kind of get share the story of those conservation farms, and what were some of the takes of other folks that hadn't seen something like that before? Well,
we had an event last night where we kind of showcased all the technology farms, and we had Dwayne Roth and Tom Willis, 2 of our early adopters with technology, talking last night. And I've had more comments this morning from folks that really appreciated Dwayne and Tom's comments, and we kind of did a summary of all of our technology farms from Goodland all the way down to Liberal. So I think they thought it was what we've done here in Kansas is pretty significant, and we agree. We think it's been probably one of our best success stories out of the vision was the development of the water technology farms in concert with water conservation areas and the local enhanced management areas.
All right, Tracy Streeter, the director of the Kansas Water Office, has joined us. Stay with us. We'll have more coming up.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Livestock Association, supporting our members' business interests to meet consumers' demands. KLA.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com. Kansas Wheat Commission, leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online at kswheat.com.
Imagine having someone help you pick the best corn hybrids for every field on your farm. Your Oldie representative can combine your data with his data to offer a field-by-field prescription. Contact Oldie Seed today at 877-692-4555.
All over the country, more and more communities are making the change to biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil. And the decision continues improving the health and welfare for millions of Americans while adding billions to our national economy.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil.
The producer-funded Kansas Wheat Innovation Center was built to get improved varieties into the hands of farmers faster. Kansas Wheat, farmers advancing their future through wheat genetics research.
What if U.S. soybean oil were an industry sensation? If end users started asking for it by name? That future is here, the time is now. To meet customer demands, the Soybean Checkoff is investing in varieties that produce oil with increased functionality. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Well, joining us now, Jesse McCurry with Kansas Sorghum. Jesse, one of the things we want to talk about is now we've had a few days since the tariff announcement and kind of that back and forth with China, and sorghum is one of those that is really taking a hit.
Unfortunately, we are in the middle of it, and that's not where any of our farmers want to be, but it is the case, and others are now part of this process as well. There's a lot that we don't know. What we do know is that sorghum has followed the rules as far as the process of informing the Chinese government on questionnaires and things that were put to the industry and our growers related to pricing. That work has been done and has been delivered to Beijing. These are fights well above our weight class, but all our farmers want to have is a viable market that has opportunities, and China has been that for us, and hopefully will continue to be the case.
One of the concerns is over the last few years, China really has been the market, and some are saying, well, this may be a short-term situation because, as you have said, China needs our sorghum.
China has an emerging middle class that is so large that it's mind-blowing. And for those of us that have had the opportunity to go to China, we've seen that. We've also had many Chinese buyers in the state, and they love the product. They want to continue to buy the product if the governments can come to some resolution, which we're hopeful that they will.
You're also just getting back from D.C., where you spent some time on the Hill to express those concerns, but also try to get an idea of where we're heading with this farm bill.
Senior representatives and leaders matter, and Senator Roberts certainly matters in a time like this. We're very grateful for his leadership, and he'll continue to push as he can. Have had opportunities in D.C. to illustrate the value of sorghum and Kansas grain products generally in the food aid front. You know, we have a hungry and troubled world, as the senator always reminds us, and we have an opportunity to continue to fill those needs by getting grain bushels out of this state.
It is one also that, as we look at the international aspect, is one, but also sorghum as a food and finding ways to house that fit even domestically.
People love to eat a well-cooked product that is affordable and tastes good. And what we're finding with the way we can include sorghum in recipes at fine-end dining areas and also in the pet food market is it's a versatile product that is affordable, and we're finding more and more new ways to use it, and that is good for prices generally.
Jesse McCurry is joining us with Kansas Sorghum. We'll have more coming up.
This segment brought to you by Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919. KFB.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. Grassandgrain.com. Kansas Wheat Commission, leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online at kswheat.com.
We're joined by Jesse McCurry from Kansas Sorghum. And Jesse, a few weeks back, the intended planting report came out from USDA, and sounded like some good news not only nationally, but even here in Kansas.
We should see more sorghum acres planted. I know farmers are anxious to get out there. Things are warming up a bit. We still have some challenges in terms of moisture and all, but we'll see some more sorghum acres. How many we'll see ultimately at the end of the day, there's a lot of factors in that picture, but it was time for Kansas to grow a little more sorghum. That's kind of what we like to do in this state.
Well, it was interesting talking to farmers over the last year, and there was a challenge of why maybe acres were down a little bit. We'll talk about that in just a bit, but almost everybody I talked to, it was a good year for sorghum in Kansas.
Generally speaking, we've had some nice yields, regional and local issues here and there, but as you know from your part of the world, sorghum matters a lot, and as long as we can keep pests at bay and continue to have some new technologies in the bag, it needs to continue to be a viable option on the plains.
Sugarcane aphid was an issue, especially a couple of years ago. A lot of effort, a lot of research, time, effort, dollars were in. Wasn't a big issue. What are you hearing getting into this growing season?
Time will tell. I know nobody wants to have that answer, but we feel pretty confident that we're over the hump there with technology, with breeding, with genetics. I think it's important for your listeners to understand that investments that have been made in sorghum years and years ago on understanding what's in that plant, from trials in Africa, from investment internationally, have even come back to bear fruit on what's tolerant in terms of varieties. And the seed companies are certainly pushing that. There's a lot of good options for farmers to choose from anymore. And the management thresholds. The K-State Extension System's done a tremendous job helping farmers understand more how to treat it. We have a Section 18 for Transform and Savanto. Obviously, the pricing environment's not great for a ton of inputs there, but hopefully, knock on wood, we'll be in pretty good shape. Kansas
still the number one sorghum producing state in the nation.
That's correct. Kansas and Texas together combine for 72 or 3% of the overall production. Kansas itself is generally into that 42 to 50%. Kansas is a powerhouse in sorghum, and we want that to continue.
I want to remind folks, because of that reason, a lot of Kansas farmer leaders are directing the efforts not only from the association side, but also from the checkoff side.
Remember, as the largest sorghum producing state, we have an obligation to lead. And every person in your audience knows somebody who has that within them, who can serve on a state or national board, whether that's on the Growers Association and more on the policy and lobbying side, whether that's on the checkoff investment, research, and market development side. This is the time for interested parties to help decide what the future of this crop's going to look like, and that can come from many Kansas leaders.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jesse. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Jesse McCurry from Kansas Sorghum has joined us. Stay with us. We'll have more coming up.
Spring is sprung, and Premier Farm & Home has what you need to keep your yard crabgrass free throughout the season. With a complete line of pre-emergents, you can stop crabgrass before it starts. Premier Farm & Home, 900 Southwest University Boulevard, or find them on the web at heycow.com.
It takes to give my crops the upper hand. And I will use multiple herbicide sites of action because every action counts. I will take action, this time for all time.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Researchers at Kansas State University say their work to improve genes in wheat varieties using a gene editing technology is another positive step toward global food security. According to Edward Ockenoff, professor of wheat genetics and pathology, food security and the food supply is one of the main issues in the world's future. Ockenoff and his colleagues are working with gene editing, a technology developed 5 years ago, which can be used to modify with high precision any gene in a living organism. CRISPR-Cas9 technology is a simple yet powerful tool for editing genomes, the complete set of genetic material present in a cell. Ockenoff said it allows researchers to easily change DNA sequences, creating new variants of a gene with improved properties, or fix known defects in a gene. Ockenoff says you can consider CRISPR-Cas9 to be like molecular scissors that can make changes very precisely in a particular place of the genome. Using this tool, you can selectively modify any part of the genome to improve genes controlling the major agronomic traits. This same process is done in traditional wheat breeding, but it often takes as many as 7 to 10 years to effect the improvements that CRISPR technology can enact in a much shorter time. The scientists are working to improve genes that control several yield component traits, among them seed size, number of seeds per spike, and number of tillers per plant.
We've all seen smoke from prescribed pasture burns. From a distance, the plumes can be impressive. Up close, I think many will agree that too much smoke can be a nuisance, irritating our eyes, impacting road visibility, and sometimes contributing to exceedances of EPA air quality standards. But for range managers, prescribed burns, along with livestock grazing, are the two most important management tools available for maintaining a prairie ecosystem. And fire is the most effective and least costly tool for controlling invasive species like red cedar, sumac, and Sericea lespedeza, which, left unchecked, can destroy a native grassland, endangering the species that depend on it, like ground-nesting prairie chicken and pollinators. Additionally, by reducing the fuel load that's available, prescribed burns can play a key role in minimizing the risk of wildfires, something we in Kansas have become all too familiar with. Conducting a prescribed burn is no small task. Beginning with the burn plan and site preparation, which often takes place a year in advance, it includes assembling a crew and proper equipment, working with local authorities to obtain the proper permits, checking if any burn bans are in place, and carefully monitoring local weather conditions. And to help estimate the impacts that smoke from a prescribed burn might have on downwind communities, more and more ranchers are using the smoke modeling decision tools available at www.ksfire.org. The maps on the cumulative fire impacts page are updated daily and show the potential air quality impacts of fire occurring that day and the next, helping landowners avoid burns that might negatively impact air quality. Smoke from prescribed burns can be a nuisance, and it's imperative that range managers do everything in their power to mitigate the impacts on air quality. But as a Kansan, we need to understand that to maintain the millions of acres of beautiful prairie ecosystem in our state, there might be a couple of smoky days each year.
This segment brought to you by Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919. KFB.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. Grassandgrain.com. Kansas Wheat Commission, leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online at kswheat.com.
What if U.S. soybean oil were an industry sensation? If end users started asking for it by name? That future is here. The time is now. To meet customer demands, the Soybean Checkoff is investing in varieties that produce oil with increased functionality. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
You need a partner that you can count on to be there for your business. Providing a depth of understanding to risk management issues so you don't have to. A knowledgeable support team located in your area, delivering products and services to make you more successful.
The producer-funded Kansas Wheat Innovation Center was built to get improved varieties into the hands of farmers faster. Kansas Wheat, farmers advancing their future through wheat genetics research.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil.
Imagine having someone help you pick the best corn hybrids for every field on your farm. Your oldie representative can combine your data with his data to offer a field-by-field prescription. Contact Oldie Seed today at 877-692-4555.
The producer-funded Kansas Wheat Innovation Center was built to get improved varieties into the hands of farmers faster. Kansas Wheat, farmers advancing their future through wheat genetics research.
The Kansas Department of Agriculture Division of Animal Health has reported there was a slight increase in the number of Trichomoniasis infected bulls and herds in 2017. There were 9 new cases diagnosed last year compared to only 3 cases in 2016. The cases involved 10 positive herds with 2,500 total cows and 23 positive bulls. These positive cases resulted in 18 herds being placed under quarantine due to possible exposure. Most of the positive bulls ranged from 5 to 7 years old. About 50% of the herd owners reported carrying over open heifers or cows. All of the positive herds had contact with shortbred or open cows. Trichomoniasis is a venereal disease spread through sexual contact. The disease is physically unnoticeable and can only be confirmed through testing. The effects are lost pregnancies or abortions, prolonged calving intervals, and high open rates. Selling affected bulls and females for harvest only is the only way to stop the disease cycle. Kansas regulations address testing bulls at change of ownership and requiring breeding cattle imported from other states to meet certain criteria. An increase in producer awareness and testing during recent years has led to a lower incidence rate of the disease.
Spring is sprung, and Premier Farm and Home has what you need to keep your yard crabgrass free throughout the season. With a complete line of pre-emergents, you can stop crabgrass before it starts. Premier Farm and Home, 900 Southwest University Boulevard, or find them on the web at heycow.com.
Good morning. I'm Cody Wintersheet with Paragon Ag Advisors. It's safe to say that the volatility is back in the grain markets here lately. Particularly in the last several weeks, it has really started to pick up. They've had some for both sides, up and down. However, they've mostly had an upward bias to them in recent weeks. It sure makes for a little more excitement rather than the proverbial watching paint dry that we suffered through for several months, particularly in the corn and wheat markets. Certainly, part of this volatility is due to the seasonal aspect of things. However, there are now several hot topic items causing waves in the markets. From the ongoing weather struggles in Argentina to continuing moisture struggles in winter wheat country, and springtime is also having a tough time deciding if it's here to stay, it seems, in a lot of the major Corn Belt and Northern Plains regions. Additionally, we received some surprisingly friendly acre estimates from the USDA recently. And on top of that, the ongoing talks regarding NAFTA and the RFS. And lastly, but certainly not least, the trade war concerns and tariff situations with China. So to say there's a lot of stuff going on currently is an understatement. Bottom line, what does this all mean? Well, the good thing about volatility is that it also brings opportunities for those that are willing and able. To me, it seems as though we've got some nice opportunities to get some marketing accomplished here, whereas just 3 months or so ago, things sure looked pretty doom and gloom. It sure feels like it has the makings of a crazy and more exciting year with all these high-impact storylines yet to play out. Thank you and have a great day.
Well, that's our show today. Thank you so much for watching. You can see it again and get more ag information online anytime at kansasagreport.net. Also be social with us by liking us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter at Kansas Ag Report. We've been looking at some of the wheat. We desperately need some rain. Join us again next week for the Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers.
Closed captioning brought to you by
The Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers. KansasSoybeans.org.
Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919. KFB.org. Kansas Wheat Commission, leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online at kswheat.com. Kansas Livestock Association, supporting our members' business interests to meet consumers' demands. KLA.org.
What if U.S. soybean oil were an industry sensation? If end users started asking for it by name? That future is here. The time is now. To meet customer demands, the Soybean Checkoff is investing in varieties that produce oil with increased functionality. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
The producer-funded Kansas Wheat Innovation Center was built to get improved varieties into the hands of farmers faster. Kansas Wheat, farmers advancing their future through wheat genetics research.